Hey everyone, John Candy was an icon when I was growing up. There wasn't a film he was in that I didn't love. He's also a man who had a lot of troubles, and he was taken away from us far too quickly. So when I had a chance to see the new documentary, John Candy, I Like Me, at a special screening, yeah, I bought my ticket for $100 and I drove 3 hours to see it. Don't worry, you don't have to pay that kind of money or drive that kind of distance just to watch it. It's coming out on Amazon Prime. So, did the documentary measure up to the man himself? It's produced by Ryan Reynolds, directed by Colin Hanks, and it feels very much like a heartfelt tribute to one of the most beloved actors of his generation. What makes this film stand out isn't just the big names that you're going to see in it, though there are plenty, including Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Steve Martin, Martin Short, Macaulay Culkin, and Catherine O'Hara. What really makes it shine is how personal it is. The memories come from not only John's colleagues, but also from his family, his wife, his kids, and the people who knew him best outside of that famous Hollywood circle. The film weaves those stories with clips from his most iconic roles and pieces of John Candy's own commentary pulled from interviews and articles. The rest is a portrait of someone who wasn't just funny on screen, but who genuinely carried his pain, his joy, and his sense of compassion into the characters that he played. One of the first things the film drives home is how much John Candy's early life shaped him. His father passed away when he was just 35 years old, and John was still just this little child. That loss left a lasting mark. The absence of his father created this sense of fragility in John, this deep awareness that time is short and that you have to make the most from the moments you get. From his own words in his interviews, you can tell he lived with that awareness. He seemed to know he wouldn't have much time, as most people, and that urgency really pushed him to embrace life fully. That's part of why he connected so deeply with people. He was someone who could recognize pain in others because he had lived with it himself. And when he played those characters who were lonely or struggling or quietly hurting, he wasn't just acting, he was drawing from something real inside of him. The film also does a strong job of showing that John Candy was universally loved. Bill Murray even remarks at one point that most biographies work because you can tell both the good and the bad about a person. But with John, there really wasn't anything bad to say. That could have made the film feel one sided, but it doesn't. Instead, the honesty of everyone's reflections makes it feel grounded and true. You believe it when they say that John was as good of a man off screen as he was when he was on screen. What really struck me was how much John put himself into every character. Almost every film he did has moments of honesty where he drops the smile, lets his guard down, and you see something deeper there, something fragile and real. Probably the best example is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin. The most iconic scene in that film, it isn't the comedy or the slapstick, it is this moment when Steve Martin's character unloads his frustration in a long and brutal rant at John Candy's character. The camera stays close to John's face, and you watch as all that real pain he was holding down just kind of bubbles up. And it feels less like acting and more like John just kind of responding as himself. That scene works because he was willing to let the truth of his own experience show through. You see that same kind of honesty in so many of his other roles, whether it's Uncle Buck, opposite Macaulay Culkin, Stripes, opposite of Bill Murray, or even small moments where he's just talking about his weight. He had a way of finding something real in the dialogue, pulling from his past and letting it come through that character. That's the mark of a great actor. When they can take their own pain, their own humanity, and let it kind of feed into the character for the audience to feel, that's reality, even though it's kind of make believe on screen. And that was something John Candy was amazing at doing. And I'll be honest, watching this film reminded me of just how rare that kind of acting is today. Modern films so often trade those emotionally rich moments for quick jokes and action beats or slapstick. Seeing John Candy work reminded me of what acting can be when someone is brave enough to bear themselves on screen. Another major focus in the documentary was his time on SCTV, the Canadian sketch show that kind of launched so many actors' careers. It was a lot like Saturday Night Live, but from Canada. It was there that he had the freedom to experiment, to stretch himself, and to evolve from this shy, introverted kid that he was, and then kind of grow into that larger than life performer that we all remember. But alongside those successes, the film doesn't shy away from showing some of the tougher parts of John's career. One of the saddest recurring themes is how often interview is asked about his weight. Instead of focusing on his talent or the film he was promoting, the questions would inevitably circle back to his body. You can literally see the light go out of his eyes in some of those clips. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was demeaning. Watching those interviews, I couldn't help thinking about Ryan Reynolds producing this documentary and even about Blake Lively, his wife, who's faced her own intrusive questions in interviews, whether it's a baby bump or body size. Those kinds of questions take away from the artistry and turn something personal into public fodder. And for John Candy, who was already carrying his own insecurities, that must have been exhausting. The film makes you feel that way, no pun intended, and it adds another layer of appreciation for what he brought to his work, despite how he was kind of publicly treated. So, John Candy, I Like Me, is it worth the watch? I mean, was it worth the watch for me paying for the ticket and driving there? It actually was because I enjoyed it. I needed a moment away. It was fun. I got out of town. It was great. But it's definitely worth watching on streaming. If you have Amazon Prime, it's an easy get, it's an easy watch. This film really does explore this man's creative talent, the depths of his spirit. And I think that if you're going to be streaming it, it's an easy yes. It's, you know, it'll fill the time for sure. The documentary itself is heartfelt and intimate and full of insights into John's life and work. If you love John Candy, if you're interested in film or theater history, or if you just want to see what made him so beloved, I think this is a movie, a documentary that you'll enjoy watching. Younger audiences who may not know him well should definitely give it a try too. His films hold up over time. He was a common man in uncommon situations, doing the best he could. And in the process, he became an icon. So, what about you? Have you seen it? Are you planning to see it? What was your favorite John Candy film? Was it Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Cool Runnings, or maybe his work on SCTV or something else? Which character of his did you just really love? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if this review was helpful, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with a friend who might like watching this documentary about John Candy. Thanks so much, everybody. That's it for now. Why not check out one of these other reviews? Let me know what you're thinking, and I will see y'all again soon. In the meantime, happy viewing. Bye for now.